Hmm. Okay, good morning, everyone. Wow, it has been a morning trying to get this set up. And as you know, if you tried tuning in yesterday, I had some major technical difficulties in the system, and if it was happening on my end, I think I figured it out. But in the process, I decided it was time for me to um, move my streaming platforms. And I'm told that I can be seen. Comments are turned on. I appreciate any comments. Um, Let me bear with me as I get set in. And what's interesting, all right, I think I need that wider. There it goes. All right. All right, I'll play with that angle a little bit more. It's weird having two of me on there. I'm bound and determined to get that second camera to work, and I've got some ideas in this new software, but um, it's not quite there yet. So, good morning, everybody. Let's get started. I am Dr. Jeff Evenson. I'm a board certified doctor of holistic health. Oops. And my technical assistant is snapping me. Yep, I think I think we're good to go there, Christine. I got it figured out. Hopefully. Um, Hopefully you just see one of me. I'm a board certified doctor of holistic health. I'm not a medical doctor. I do not practice medicine. I don't pretend to practice medicine. I do not prescribe, diagnose, or treat. I leave those words to the medical community. Instead, I help people get their health back through natural health means without drugs or surgery. Okay. And I've got a few people watching. It looks like that is awesome. If you happen to be watching, please throw in the comments where you're watching from. Um, it it has been a great couple days. I don't know if you were in Minnesota yesterday, it made it up to 70 degrees. At least it did here on my outdoor thermometer. 70. And I needed to run some errands into town and all that kind of stuff. I decided not to run into town yesterday. I'm going to do that today, go up to the co-op and get some real food. Um, I got to work outside. And that is like one of my favorite things to do when I can spend time outside working. And I started working on grading my driveway. I solved a challenge I had there with weeds that tend to grow on top of the gravel, and I haven't needed to grade my driveway necessarily because it's always flat. But the weeds. Hi, Janae. Thanks for popping in from McGregor, Minnesota. I appreciate your patience for yesterday. Um, and that goes to all of you. I just could not get things up and running yesterday. So I moved my streaming platform over, and I think it'll be a much better quality. I've got a few more control options. Great, more tools to play with. I forgot to go turn on the live stream over on Instagram. And looks like I'm streaming live over there on YouTube and Substack. Everything is up and running. I didn't look at X yet. That's a quick click. But I've got some good content today, and I'm kind of glad in a way that things just would not fire up yesterday. Oops. There we go. Because it gave me more time to think about the content, and it was really the week, as I talk to other holistic practitioners, sometimes there's a common thread that comes up with us, especially when we're working with new clients. Okay, I choose to call my people clients. I don't call them patients. I call them clients because I'm consulting, health coaching them. And clients infers that they're in charge of their health. Patients infer that they are not in charge of their health. So that's how I look at that. But anyway, my clients, when they come in, a lot of clients, they come in and I've been doing this 17 plus years, folks, and it is amazing how people come in there. And this is what the impetus of the show is the difference. I'm going to talk about the difference between transformational health care versus transactional or the conventional medical system healthcare. Okay. And a lot of people that come into the holistic world, they're looking for those same results that they get. They want the symptoms to go away right now, overnight, and that just doesn't happen. Okay. Because what's interesting is they forget that those symptoms didn't typically appear overnight for them. They slowly crept in, and they've been ignoring the signs, the signals that their body's been telling them forever, until the symptom is knocking on the door so hard they can't ignore it, and they go see what the doctor will tell them, and hopefully get a pill and take the pill and feel better. But they never really solved the problem as to why they needed the pill in the first place, what caused the symptom in the first place, and it's on, and now you're on the medical meat grinder and you're spinning round and round, and you can't get the fuck off because the medical meat grinder straps you in and you can't get off. And so working with people like me, it's a process because we're going to do things right. It's any programs that are created for your body, for the uniqueness of that individual. And we're going to get to know you, and we're going, it's almost like the old country doctors. I remember watching on TV. That's my exposure to country doctors, of course. On TV shows like Little House on the Prairie and Doc Adams on Gunsmoke. and you could probably name some others that you saw on TV. And those docs took time. They would actually go out to the farms and the places where their people lived and knew the families, and they would take care of the families and knew everything that went into them. And that's what holistic work is about. That's what I'm trying to bring back. And so I decided to write the program today to talk about the nuances between the two systems. Okay, and the overall goal when you go into holistic is to get your health back, because what drove you into the medical establishment in the first place is the fact that you felt like utter shit. And folks, again, it didn't appear overnight. It had been creeping in. And so now when you're told that all the labs are normal, everything is fine, we're going to get into my monologue here. Everything's fine. Then people come find the holistic route because they don't know where else to look. They're going to try something new, but they're still trained by the medical system to expect those kind of results. Are you following me? And those kind of results, they can keep those kind of results. I've been in that system, and the results in that system pushed me so hard out to the point where the holistic health got my attention, to the point that I am now a holistic health doctor. Never in a million years, if you asked me, 20 years ago, even before 17 years, if you asked me that I was going to someday become a holistic health doctor, I would have went, right. Are you kidding me? There's no way I'm going to do that. That doesn't even make sense. That's snake oil shit. That's voodoo magic shit. And well, here I am, and I've been called all those names over the years. I've been accused of working with Satan, and doing devil's work and all that kind of stuff. And my response to that is simple. If I was doing devil's work, are you getting better? And a lot of times every time I ask that question back, they'll go, well, yeah. Okay. Do you think, devil's work would allow you to get better? In my opinion, doing devil's work is still ushering in chaos and more damage and continued dysfunction in your health. Whereas if you're getting better and things start to feel more organized and whatnot, does that sound like devil's work? No. So I've been called all the names, and I can take it. Some of them are quite comical when people come up. But so grab your coffee. Let's dive into this. And we'll go. Have you ever had that moment where you sit back and ask yourself, and every one of my clients comes in and tells me this, why am I still dealing with this? Okay? Not casually. I mean, honestly, you're honestly asking the question, why am I still dealing with this? You've tried things, you've made changes, you've spent money, you've gone to appointments. Maybe you've even been told everything looks normal. Okay? And yet, you don't feel normal. Your energy isn't right. Your digestion isn't right. You're not pooping. Your sleep isn't right. Your mind doesn't feel clear. Something is off. And deep down, you know it. Now, here's where most people go next. They assume there must be something wrong with me. Or worse, this is just how it is now. And I want to challenge that right out of the gate today, because after doing this work for as long as I have, working with people from all walks of life, seeing cases that didn't make sense on paper, here's what I've come to understand. It's not that your body isn't trying to heal. It's that you've been placed inside a model of care that was never designed to help you transform. I call that model of care sick care. That model is designed to keep you sick so they can keep profiting off of you. Let that sink in, because it's a very different problem. Most people today are operating inside a system that is built for stability, control, predictability, scale, not transformation. And when you understand that, a lot of things start to make sense. Why you keep getting the same answers. Why you keep getting managed instead of moved forward. Why you feel like you're doing things but not actually progressing. Because management and transformation are not the same thing. Management says, let's keep this from getting worse. Transformation says, let's figure out why this is happening in the first place and change it. Those are two completely different paths. And here's the hard truth. Most people have never experienced transformational care. They've experienced symptom suppression, protocol chasing, temporary improvements, and long stretches of frustration, but not transformation. Not the kind where your body starts responding again, your system begins to regulate, and you actually feel like you're getting your life back. And part of the reason for that is because the system most people are in is not built around you as an individual. It's built around the collective. It has to be. It's designed to handle volume, to create standardized approaches, to apply the same logic across millions of people. And again, there's a place for that. If you break your arm or leg, don't call me or people like me. Go get it fixed. Reactive medical care is essential. Okay? But when it comes to chronic health issues, that model starts to fall apart. Because chronic illness, it's not a group problem. It's not something that shows up the same way in every person. It's deeply personal. It's built on your history, your exposures, your stress, your lifestyle, your environment, and your decisions. And you can't solve something that personal with something that generalized. And that's where the disconnect is. And that's where I want to take this conversation today. Because if you've been stuck, if you've been searching, if you've been trying to piece this together, then maybe it's not that you haven't found the answer yet. It's not that you've been looking for it's that you've been looking for it inside the wrong model. So today I want to walk you through something different. I want to show you what transformational care actually looks like. Why most people never experience it, and what has to shift if you actually want to step into it. Because at the end of the day, your health is not something that gets fixed from the outside. It's something that changes when you start working with your body as an individual. All right, as we go along, if you have any questions or comments, please throw them in the chat. Let's see. If you're just joining the show, I appreciate that. Also comment in the chat where you're watching from. It's always fun to see where people are across the country. Looks like everybody's coming in from Facebook. It's awesome. All right. So what is transformational care really? Okay. Let me make something very clear right out of the gate. Okay. Most of what people call care today is not transformation. It's management. And if you don't understand that distinction, you will stay stuck for a very long time. Because management feels like progress, but it's not. Management is, let's reduce the symptoms, let's keep this under control, and let's make this more tolerable. Transformation is a completely different game. Transformation says, what is actually causing this? And what has to change for the body to function the way it was designed to? Now, here's where I'm going to push a little bit, because some of you listening, you don't actually want transformation. You say you do, but what you really want is relief without responsibility. Change without changing. Or healing without having to become someone different. And I'm telling you right now, that doesn't exist. Not in my office, not in real healing, not anywhere. Because transformational care requires something from you. It requires participation. It requires ownership. It requires you to look at your life and say, where am I out of alignment with how my body was designed to live? And that's not always comfortable. See, when someone comes into my practice, I'm not asking, what diagnosis do you have? I'm asking, what is your body dealing with right now? Where is it stressed? Where is it stuck? What systems are not regulating? Because symptoms are not the problem. They're the signal. And if all we do is chase the signal, we never solve the issue. Transformation happens when the nervous system begins to regulate, the body can actually detox and drain properly, the gut starts functioning the way it's supposed to, the energy systems of the body are no longer overwhelmed. Now here's the part most people don't expect. As the body changes, you have to change with it. Your habits, your routines, your environment, and your mindset. Because the same life that got you here will keep you here. And that's why I say this all the time. I don't just help people feel better, I help them become different. Because if you don't become different, you will recreate the same problems. Over and over again. Different symptom, same pattern. So when we talk about transformational care, we're talking about a process where you stop outsourcing your health and you start taking ownership of it. Where you stop looking for the quick fix and you commit to the right process. Where your body isn't just being managed, it's being restored. And that requires something most people aren't used to. Discipline, consistency, and a willingness to be coached. Because I'll tell you this straight, the people who get the best results in my practice are not the ones who know the most. They're the ones who are the most coachable. They're the ones who say, I'm all in, show me what to do. And then they do it. No half in, no toe in the water, no bouncing from thing to thing. They commit. And their body responds. So if you're listening to this and you're asking yourself, why haven't I experienced transformation yet? Start here. Have you actually stepped into it? Or have you been trying to stay comfortable while hoping something changes? Because transformational care will change your life. But it will also require you to change yours. So, as an aside that pertains to all of this, the willingness to be coached, I I had to let a client go this week. Okay. So let me share something with you that ties into this for a minute. This isn't theory. This isn't something that I read in a book. This is something that just happened in my practice this week. I had to let a client go. And I want you to hear that clearly. Okay. I didn't do it out of frustration. I didn't do it out of emotion. I did it because there was a lack of alignment. Because what I'm talking about here with transformational care, this isn't something you can halfway commit to. And what I was seeing was inconsistency, resistance to the process, and a lack of follow through. And at some point, I have to make a decision as a practitioner. Do I lower the standard or do I hold the line? And I'll tell you straight, I will always hold the line. Because if I don't, I'm not serving that person. I'm enabling them. I'm allowing them to stay in the same patterns that are keeping them stuck. And that's not why I do this work. So I had a very honest conversation, and what I told them was simple. At this level of care, this isn't the right fit. Not forever. I told them we'll bookmark it and invited him to come back when he's ready to get serious about the things we've been talking about in this segment. Not forever, but right now, because the level of care I provide, it requires participation, it requires consistency, it requires a willingness to be coached. And if that's not there, then no protocol, no supplement, no strategy is going to create transformation. Now, here's why I'm sharing that with you, because some of you listening right now, you're right on that edge. You want change, but you're still negotiating the process. You're still holding on to convenience, comfort, old habits, and hoping something shifts anyway. And I'm telling you, that's the gap. That's the exact place where people stay stuck. So this isn't about calling anyone out. This is about calling you up. Because when you're ready, truly ready, everything changes. So let's talk about the collective model of healthcare and why it keeps you stuck, okay? Let's get straight at it. The system, pardon me, the system most people are relying on for their health, it's not built for you. It's built for everyone. And that's the problem. Because when something is built for everyone, it's actually built for no one specifically. That's the collective model. I posted about this earlier in the week. The difference between collectivism and individualism in the model of healthcare. And inside that model, you are not treated as an individual. You are treated as a statistic, a category, a diagnosis, a protocol. You walk in, you present symptoms, they match those symptoms to a label, and that label gets a standardized response. That's how the system has to operate. Why? Because it's designed for volume, efficiency, predictability, liability, not precision, not personalization, and definitely not transformation. If you've experienced that kind of stuff in the medical system, put in the comments, I have. Now, again, I'm not here to say it has no value. If you get hit by a truck, you don't call me, you go to the ER. That system is incredible at acute care, emergency intervention, life-saving procedures. But let's talk about where it completely breaks down. Chronic conditions, fatigue, gut issues, hormonal imbalances, brain fog, autoimmune patterns, all the stuff people are actually living with every single day. Because those conditions don't come up from one cause. They come from layers. Layers of stress, layers of toxins, infections, nutritional deficiencies, lifestyle patterns, emotional load. And here's the kicker. Those layers are different for every single person. So how do you take something that is deeply personal and try to solve it with a standardized collective approach? You can't. And that's why people end up stuck in cycles like this. They go new symptom to new label to new medication to temporary relief to new symptom over and over again. It's not healing, it's management. And the system calls that success. So now let me push this a little further, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. The collective model trains you to think a certain way about your health. It teaches you something is wrong with me. It teaches you I need someone else to fix it. It teaches you I'll wait until it gets bad enough to deal with. It conditions passivity, and passivity is the enemy of transformation. Because the moment you hand your health over completely, you lose ownership of it. And when you lose ownership, you lose power. Now, contrast that with an individual model. In my world, you don't get lumped into a category. We look at your story, your timeline, your stressors, your environment, your body's current state. And we ask a different question. What is going on with you? Specifically. Not people like you, not others with your diagnosis, you. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have a conversation with you. We're going to talk about your whole health history. We're going to talk about the timelines. When did things actually start? What was going on in your life at that time? We're going to get to know each other. Because I've seen it too many times. Two people, same symptoms, completely different underlying causes. One person might be dealing with heavy metals, gut dysfunction, nervous system dysregulation. Another person, same symptoms, is dealing with chronic infections, hormonal stress, and emotional trauma patterns. If I treat those two people the same, I fail both of them. That's the flaw in the collective system. And here's the part most people don't realize. You've been trained to expect that model. You've been trained to look for the answer, the pill, the protocol, the expert to tell you what to do. Instead of stepping into ownership, participation, responsibility. And I'll tell you this straight, until that shift happens, nothing changes. You can bounce from doctor to doctor. Try every supplement, every medication under the sun. Follow every new trend. But if you stay inside a collective mindset, you will keep getting collective results. Average, managed, not transformed. So if you're listening right now and something in you is like, yeah, that's me, good. Because awareness is the first step out of it. The question becomes, are you ready to step out of that model and into something that actually requires you to show up? because individual care will ask more of you, but it will also give you something the system never can give you, and that's a real path forward. Oh, we got a thumbs up out there. Thank you, Lisa. I know Lisa is watching from Florida. Okay. So now let's talk about individualism in healing, okay, where transformation actually begins. We just talked about the collective model, and so if the collective model keeps people stuck, then where does real healing actually begin? Okay? It begins the moment you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you start asking, what is my body trying to tell me? That's the shift. That's the individualism. And I'm going to be very direct here. Individualism in healing means this: your health is your responsibility. Not your doctors, not your practitioners, not the systems, yours. Now, that doesn't mean you do it alone, but it does mean you stop outsourcing the outcome. Because I can guide you, I can test, I can build a plan, I can adjust protocols. But I cannot live your lifestyle. I cannot make your choices. I cannot follow through for you. I cannot care more about your health than you do. And believe me, when I first started as a practitioner, that's what I thought I was supposed to do, was care more about your health than my client. And I would do everything to try and drag them across the finish line. And you can only do that for so long as a practitioner before you burn yourself out. Now I don't drag people across the finish line. Put it right here. That's where the separation happens, okay? Because the people who step into individual care, they show up differently. They're not looking for someone to save them. They're looking for someone to lead them. And that's a completely different posture. Now, inside my practice, that's exactly how I approach every case. I'm not asking what worked for the last 10 people. I'm asking, what is happening in your system right now? Because your body is constantly adapting. It's responding to what you eat, what you're exposed to, how you sleep, how you handle stress, the environment you live in, the thoughts that you carry. All of that matters. And when I sit down with someone, we start peeling back the layers, not guessing, not assuming, identifying. Where is the stress coming from? Is it gut dysfunction? Drainage pathways not working? Toxic burden? Hidden infections? Nervous system overload? Because once we identify that, now we can actually do something about it. And here's what's powerful. When you work at that level, the body responds. Not because we forced it, but because we removed what was interfering with it. That's how the body was designed. It doesn't need to be fixed. It needs the right conditions. But here's the part that separates people again. Once we identify what needs to change, you have to actually change it. That means adjusting how you eat. It means supporting your body with the right supplementation. It means changing routines that are working against you. It means addressing stress patterns that are draining you, and sometimes that includes hard conversations. Because healing will expose things like burnout, poor boundaries, chronic stress, emotional patterns you've been carrying around for years. And a protocol alone won't fix that. That requires growth, that requires ownership, that requires you stepping into a different version of yourself. And I'll tell you this, that is where real transformation happens. Not when everything is easy, but when you decide, I'm done living like this. And you commit. Not halfway, not when it's convenient, but fully. Because individual care is not passive. It's active, it's engaged, it's a partnership where I bring the strategy and you bring the execution. And when those two line up, that's when things start to shift fast. Energy comes back, clarity comes back, the body starts responding. And for the first time in a long time, you feel like you're moving forward again. That's what people are actually looking for. Not another opinion, not another label, not another temporary fix. They're looking for a way out, a way off of the medical meat grinder. And that way out does not exist inside a collective approach. It exists when you step into ownership, responsibility, and individualized care. So the real question becomes, are you ready for that? Because it will ask more of you, but it will also give you something most people never experience. A body that finally starts working with you again. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Why most people never experience that transformation. Okay. Let's just be honest for a minute. Most people don't fail to heal because they don't have access to information. We live in a world right now where you can learn almost anything. Diets, protocols, supplements, detox strategies, workout plans. It's all out there. That's not the problem. The problem is people don't follow through long enough or deep enough to actually transform. And I see this all the time. Someone comes in, they're fired up, they're ready, they've hit that point where they say, I'm done feeling like this. And for a few weeks, they're all in. They follow the plan, they take the supplements, they start making changes, and then something happens. Life shows up. Work gets busy, stress increases, old habits creep back in. Results don't come fast enough. And they start negotiating. And my coach, my fitness trainer, he calls this little voice when you start negotiating with yourself, the bitch voice. You start negotiating with yourself. Maybe I don't need to do all of this. Maybe I can just take this part out. Maybe I'll get back to it next week. Maybe I'll just do my workout tomorrow. Okay? That's that little voice, that bitch voice that's trying to talk you out of doing stuff. And suddenly, just like that, they drift. Not all at once, gradually. And that drift is what keeps people stuck for years. Now, here's the hard truth. Transformation doesn't happen in your comfort zone. I'll say that again. Transformation does not happen in your comfort zone. It happens when you stay committed. Even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't feel like it, because your body doesn't respond to intention, it responds to consistency. And consistency is where most people break. Not because they're incapable, but because they're not used to being disciplined with their health. They've been conditioned for quick fixes, fast results, minimal effort. So when they step into a process that actually requires time, structure, repetition, patience, they start looking for the exit. Now let me take this one step deeper, because there's another layer here people don't talk about. Self-sabotage. And it doesn't show up the way people think. It's not always obvious. It shows up as starting and stopping over and over again. I used to do that. It shows up as jumping from one approach to another. I used to do that. It shows up as questioning the process the moment it gets uncomfortable. It shows up as looking for a new answer instead of staying with the right one. It's subtle, but it's destructive. Because every time you reset, you start over. And your body never gets the consistency it needs to actually change. Now here's the question I ask people in my office, and I'll ask it here too. Do you want to feel better temporarily? Or do you want to actually transform? Because those are two different levels of commitment. Temporary relief requires very little from you. Transformation requires everything. It requires you to decide, this is who I am now. Not, this is what I'm trying for a little while. God, I hate that. I'm going to try this for a little while, Doc Jeff. No, I don't want you to try it for a little while. I want you in, all in, because I know that's how you're going to make a difference. But this is what I'm trying for a little while. And that identity shift, that's the game changer, because when you become someone who prioritizes your health, who follows through, who stays consistent, who is coachable, everything changes. Not just your body, your life. And here's what I've seen over and over again. The people who get results are not the smartest. They're not the most educated. They're not the ones who've tried the most things. They're the ones who commit. Stay consistent and don't quit when it gets hard. That's it. So if you've been stuck, if you've been spinning your wheels, if you've been starting and stopping over and over again, this is your moment to get honest. It's not that nothing works. It's that you haven't stayed with something long enough to let it work. And once you understand that, now you have power again. Because now it's not about finding something new. It's about becoming someone different. So, as I was writing this, I came up with a kind of an aside on it. This fits here because, and I titled it, Even When You Feel Like Shit. Okay? So let me say something here that needs to be said. There are going to be moments in this process. There are going to be moments in this process where you don't feel good. In fact, there may be moments where you feel worse before you feel better. Why? Well, because when the body actually starts to change, when it starts to mobilize stress, when systems that have been stuck begin to move, you can feel that, okay? You might feel more fatigued. You might feel a little off. You might feel headaches. You might feel digestive shifts. You might feel emotional swings. That doesn't mean something's wrong. It often means something is finally happening. But this is where most people quit. Okay. This is where they say, this isn't working, and they stop. Right at that point where their body was starting to respond. And I'll tell you straight, if you only stay committed when you feel good, you will never transform. Because transformation requires you to stay the course even when you feel like shit. Now, I'm not talking about ignoring your body. I'm not talking about pushing through blindly. That's not what we do. When my clients tell me, hey, Doc Jeff, something's off, I'm feeling like shit, I mean, immediately going to check in with them, adjust, come up with new guidance, and support the process. Okay? But I won't abandon it. We won't abandon that process. The moment it gets uncomfortable, because discomfort is often part of the transition. It's the body shifting from where it's been stuck into something new. And if you understand that going in, you don't panic when it happens. You stay grounded, you stay committed, and you keep moving forward. Because on the other side of that is where the real change starts to show up. All right. So where both models fit, okay, we've talked about the collective model and the transformational model. And now we want to talk about why we need to think differently about care, okay? So let's bring some balance into this conversation, because this is not about creating us versus them conversation. It's not about saying one system is good and the other is bad. That's too simple. And honestly, okay, Janae, thank you. Honestly, that kind of thinking keeps people stuck too. The truth is, both models of care have a place. But you have to understand when to use each one. Because if you use the right tool in the wrong situation, you'll still get the wrong outcome. Okay? So let me give it to you straight. If you're in a crisis, you want the collective system. You want emergency care, fast diagnostics, immediate intervention, life-saving procedures. Okay? That applies even for me. A couple years ago, early 2024, late 2024, early 2025. No, early 2024. It doesn't matter. I got sick, really sick. Double pneumonia. Both lungs were full. And boy, I was down hard. Okay. Zero energy. I looked like a walking ghost. Zero energy. And I learned during that time, that's a kind of a funny aside. I look back on it and laugh. When you live on a homestead and have farm animals to take care of, I have a bunch of chickens. They don't care that you're sick. All they care about is who's going to give them water, who's going to give them food. And I didn't have anybody here to help me with that. So I'm in the middle of winter walking around with double pneumonia, trying to take care of my chickens. And it would be every bit of energy to get down to the coop and back. And I would crash on the couch and be done. And it took weeks and weeks. It was probably by April of that year before I actually started feeling like myself. Okay. I went to the collective system because I had a bacterial fire in my lungs going on that medications are very good at putting the fire out. But it did take 3 rounds of antibiotics for me that year to get through it. My eardrums had ruptured, things, it was awful. It was not good. Okay. That system is incredible at that, and I respect it for that. Okay. But once you move out of crisis, once you're dealing with ongoing fatigue, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, the chronic inflammation, brain fog, and long-term dysfunction, now you're in a completely different game, because those issues don't need emergency management. They need restoration. And restoration does not happen in a system designed for speed and volume. It happens in a system designed for precision, individualization, time, and process. That's where individual care comes in. So instead of thinking which system is better, the better question is, which system do I need right now? Because here's the mistake I see people make all the time. They stay in the collective system trying to solve a chronic problem, hoping for a different outcome. And when it doesn't happen, they get frustrated, they lose hope, they start believing, maybe this is just how I am now. And that's not true. It's just that they've been using the wrong approach for the type of problem that they're dealing with. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like this. You use the collective system when you need to be saved. You use the individualized care when you're ready to rebuild your health. It's two different roles, two different purposes. And when you understand that, everything starts to make more sense. You stop bouncing back and forth, hoping one system will do everything. And instead, you start taking ownership of your health journey. You start asking better questions. You start making more intentional decisions. And most importantly, you stop settling for management when what you actually want is transformation. Because at the end of the day, no system is going to care about your health. No system is going to care about your health the way you can. And when you combine your ownership with the right guidance inside the right model of care, that's where everything changes. That's where momentum builds. That's where your body starts responding. And that's where you finally feel like you're not just maintaining anymore, you're moving forward. Okay? So let's go from awareness to action. Okay? So let me ask you something. After everything we just walked through, where are you right now? Are you still stuck in that cycle of trying things, hoping something works, getting a little relief, then right back to where you started? Or are you at that point where you're ready to do this differently? Because here's what I know. The moment you see this, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to thinking, I just need to find the right supplement. I just need a different diet. I just need one more opinion. You start to realize it's not about finding something new. It's about stepping into a different level of care, a different level of ownership, and a different level of commitment. And that's the line. That's the moment where people either stay where they are or they step forward. Now, in my world, I don't offer quick fixes. I don't do one-off solutions. And I don't work with people who are half in. Because transformational care doesn't work that way. What I do is help people who are ready to get serious about their health. Help people who finally understand what's actually going on in their body and walk them through a structured process to change it. Not guess, not chase, not manage, but actually move forward. I have a lot of tools in my toolkit. Quantum nutrition testing is one of them. Holistic lifestyle coaching is another. My ability to hear you and listen is another. So if you're listening to this and something in you is saying, that's what I need, then don't ignore that. Because that's not just a thought, that's awareness. Okay? And awareness creates responsibility. Responsibility to do something different, responsibility to stop settling, responsibility to actually take a step forward. Now, here's the part I want to be very clear about. Not everyone is a fit for this level of care. And that's intentional. Because the people I work with are the ones who are ready to show up, follow through, stay consistent, and be coached. So the question becomes, is that you? Because if it is, then the next step is simple. Not easy, but simple. You raise your hand, you reach out, and you apply. And we take a look at what's actually going on and whether or not it makes sense to move forward together. And you can do that through a quantum nutrition testing full assessment. Because at the end of the day, this is your life, this is your health, and there is a point where continuing to do the same thing becomes more painful than finally doing something different. And for some of you, that point is right now. So here's what I want you to understand. If you want time with me, if you want me to look at your case, if you want me to guide you through this process, you have to be ready. Not curious, not thinking about it, not halfway in, ready. Because I don't work with people who are just looking to try something. I work with people who have decided, I'm done living like this. And they're willing to do what it takes to change it. That means you're ready to follow a plan. You're ready to be consistent. You're ready to be coached. And you're ready to take responsibility for your health. Because I will meet you there. I'll bring everything I've got. The testing, the muscle testing, quantum nutrition testing, the strategy, the experience, the guidance. Okay? But I will not carry you and I won't chase you. This is a partnership. And it only works when both sides show up. So if you're listening to this and you know that's you, then here's your next step. Apply for a full assessment. Go to my website, evensonholistic.com. I'll put it in the comments. And when you go to my website, right in the middle of the page, you can't miss this button. Begin my journey. Click that, and you'll get right to a page that will allow you to schedule time for a full assessment. Okay? It's an application process. We're going to do the full assessment together. Okay? During that time, you're going to decide if you can work with me, and I'll decide if I'm able to help your case, if we're a good fit. If we're not a good fit, I'm going to tell you that, okay? That we're not a good fit. And when I do the report of findings, you might tell me, Doc Jeff, I don't think we're a good fit. Okay. But apply for that full assessment. We'll take a deep look at what's actually going on in your body using quantum nutrition testing and determine whether or not you're fit for care. And I mean that. Because not everyone is, and that's by design. But if you are, if you're ready, if you're committed, then this could be the turning point. So don't sit on it. Don't overthink it. Make a decision. Because the people who get their health back are the ones who stop waiting and start moving. And when you go to the website to register, there's going to be a pop-up that shows up. Copy that discount code. It's got a promo code in there that will give you a discount today. And use that code when you apply. At some point in that form, it'll ask you, what is your discount code, your promo code? And it'll save you a couple $100. More than that. Okay? So, at the end of the day, this conversation isn't really about systems. It's not about collectivism versus individualism. It's not even about protocols, supplements, or testing. It's about a decision. A decision most people avoid for far too long, and that decision is this. Am I going to take ownership of my health or not? Because once you do, Everything changes. You stop waiting, you stop hoping, you stop handing your power over to someone else, and you start engaging. You start paying attention. You start making different choices. And your body responds to that. You start showing up differently. Not overnight, not magically, but consistently. Because that's how it was designed, to respond to the environment you create for it. And for some of you listening right now, you're at a crossroads. You can keep doing what you've been doing. Keep searching, keep trying, keep hoping something eventually clicks. Or you can make a different decision. You can step into ownership. You can step into a process. You can step into a level of care that actually asks something of you, but finally gives you a path forward. Because the truth is, your health was never meant to be managed forever. It was meant to be lived in fully, with energy, with clarity, with strength. And that becomes available again when you stop treating your body like the problem and start working with it like the solution. Okay? So we covered a lot of ground there. I appreciate you listening. Let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of the body, for the way you designed it with purpose, intelligence, and the ability to heal. Help us to move out of passivity and into responsibility. Give us clarity to see what needs to change and the courage to actually walk it out. Strengthen us in the process and remind us that true healing is not just physical, but a transformation of how we live. Guide our steps, align our choices, and draw us closer to the way you created us to be. In Jesus' name, amen. That is it, folks. I appreciate you taking the time to tune in, listen. If you have questions, put them in the comments, and when I see them, I will do what I can to answer them. But let's get scheduled. Let's get you on the calendar. Okay. Love you guys. We'll talk to you later. Oops. Okay. Let's do this here. How do I do that?